Oh, come in. Oh, hi. Good to see you. Come away in. Look, it's been a while since I've been here for you to call on me because I've been off in America. I've been over in Santa Barbara in California and then at Nashotah House in Wisconsin. One nice thing though was I picked up this nice rusticated Peterson system in Santa Barbara. But there's a lovely thing I want to show you. Come over here. Well, several things. We've just been celebrating the 70th anniversary of my wife Maggie's christening. And lots of family came over. And my sister came with some things from my mother. She's gradually sorting through my mother's things. And one of them, which is a great sight for me, is this beautiful piece of embroidery from the Book of Kells. My mother took a pattern from the Book of Kells and embroidered it for my father. You can see the wonderful sort of zoomorphic wake of the beasts and the birds up at the top, and all hand-stitched by my mother. And it used to hang in my father's study, so it has really good associations. But the other thing my sister brought, as she gradually went through my mother's things, were a couple of she had several Arthur Rackham books, which her mother, my grandmother, the poet, had given her. And two of them have come my way now. The Undine, which is a very strange and mysterious sort of mermaid meets man story. Look at the beautiful, beautiful gold engravings. They just don't make. But the other one, which is very precious to me. I think once when you called round, I showed you a replica of a bit of this, but this is the original Arthur Rackham edition of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And you can see it's falling to bits. So one of the things that I will do, gladly and with great joy, is have it completely refurbished. But it's astonishing. Let's see what it says. It says, first printed November 1908, new impression March 1911, October 1912. So March 1914, 4 years before my mother was born, this book was printed. And I love to look at this. I looked at this again and again as a little boy. My mother held it for me to look at the pictures. And she showed it. I'll just give you the full effect. She would say, you would see the little piece of felt that would say Titania lying asleep. And then you would open it up. And there, the cradle of the fairy queen. My goodness. You can imagine the impression that a picture like that would make on a sort of, a young ardent boy who's going to become a poet. I mean, it just was the blossoms, the beauty, everything. And I looked through these stories, these pictures, the fairies flying and the moon. Look at this. This is illustrating the line, the moon like a silver bow new bent in heaven. And you get the moon and the moonlight. I absorbed all that as pictures when I was 3 or 4 or 5, before I could obviously read Shakespeare. And yet, Midsummer Night's Dream remains one of my favourite plays. And in my book, Faith, Hope and Poetry, when I'm trying to explain what poetry is and how poetry is related to theology, it all comes out of a passage in Midsummer Night's Dream, the passage about the poet. So for me to be reunited with this book is a really astonishing experience. And then you get all the others, Hermia and Hermione. There's Hermia by the water, and the two of them together. But one of the ones I really loved, I don't know if I can find it for you, was Oberon and Titania, sort of squaring off. And then you get the kind of, Bottom and the Weaver and all the others. But sometimes Rackham would take something which isn't actually in the story. It's a throwaway line. It's just a verse in Shakespeare, to hear the sea maid's music. And you get something like that. I mean, just the very spirit of the sea itself. And there's a little portrait of Elizabeth in there. I mean, just And then the maidens call it Love in Idleness. It's just Rackham at his very best. And some of them were quite scary pictures. I know that Tolkien also was deeply moved as a boy by seeing the Rackham pictures. And now look at this. This is never harm nor spell nor charm come our lovely lady nigh. And Rackham takes to think of all the things that might harm the fairy queen and which the fairies are keeping away. And you get this extraordinary spider and the caterpillar and the snake. And I found that picture very scaresome. Look, it's falling out of its little place there. They were beautifully pasted in, hand pasted in, these pictures. And the crow. And I could look at that picture for hours and be sort of deliciously frightened by it, but then safe. So apart from all the colour pictures, you then had these extraordinary, beautiful black and white things, and Puck, mischievous Puck, featuring in so many of them. And of course, the first time I ever got to play in a play of Shakespeare, it was Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was Puck. So I had a particular feeling. So there's Puck in all his glory. And there was a time when I was 16 or 17 when I was slender and svelte enough to play Puck, and to play Puck like that. And I had a costume very much like that, and a tousled head to boot. So to be reunited with this book is just, there's Puck leading them through all the broad briars, and it's just glorious. And of course later on I came to appreciate the poetry itself. Let's see if I can find it right towards the end. The wonderful passage in Act 5, Scene 1. Let's find it here for you. Oh, there's the lovers waking up and wondering if they were awake or asleep. There's a lovely passage where Theseus and Hippolyta wonder whether what's happened to the lovers has really happened or not. And he has that famous passage where he says, the poet's eye in a fine frenzy rolling doth glance from heaven to earth, from earth to heaven, as an imagination bodies forth the form of things unknown. The poet's pen turns them to shapes, and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. Yeah. It's Act 5, Scene 1. Here we are, yeah. Beautiful. 'Tis strange, my Theseus, that these lovers speak of, more strange than true. I never may believe these antique fables nor these fairy toys. And then this passage starts right at the top here. The poet's eye, in a fine frenzy rolling, doth glance from heaven to earth, from earth to heaven, and as imagination bodies forth the form of things unknown, the poet's pen turns them to shapes, and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. That became, for me, not only a perfect account of what poetry is, but also, in its own strange way, a kind of reflective account of the incarnation of the word being made flesh and bodied forth and seen among us and known and given a local habitation and a name. So, obviously I had no idea as a little boy, pretty much sitting in my mother's arms while she opened these books and turned the pages, how hugely significant they would be to me for the rest of my life. And it's lovely that on my wife's 70th anniversary, my sister should bring to me a book that with which my mother blessed me so much. And it'll be a joy for me to take it to a really proper bookbinder and have it fully restored. But it's a very precious thing. Anyway, I'm back for a bit and then zapping off again. It's the way my summer goes. But I'm glad you caught me in, and it's good to see you. Thanks for dropping round, and see you again.